Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 56 of Whatchu Spinnin. As per usual, I'm your host, Dorian, joined by my boys, as always, Jacob and Matt. And then returning friend and guest of the show, Gavin, my boy. We're here to talk about some great albums, but we've got a guest on for a reason, and so I think we just ought to hop right on into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Jump in.
So, if y'all watched last episode, I brought up the final album we have to bring up to finish a discography for the first time. So it's The Unseen by Quasimoto, released in 2000. Hell of an album. You know, we've gone at lengths about old Quas, so no need to really intro that, but it is one of my favorites. I was super stoked. Jacob, you were there when I bought this. You saw how stoked I was to buy this on vinyl to complete my collection. But what are y'all's thoughts on it?
Dude, we did it. Got through someone's catalog.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
it's cool that he has like so much more stuff besides Quas.
Right.
Because he has all these other side projects and shit. But yeah, like, this is like the first showings of Quasimoto. You could kind of see it too in the cover.
Mm-hmm.
The character, it's not like officially him yet.
Yeah.
Because it's just an idea. Like, you know, it's not like you actually see the figure. But then his later albums, that's when it starts coming out.
Right. And it was actually the single for Microphone Mathematics off of this that the fans were like, that's what Quas looks like, because it's like three Quasimoto looking people sitting at it like school desks.
Yeah.
And so people were like, oh, that's Quas, but it wasn't official yet. That's why it's just some fucking anonymous white blob of a man.
And then a Q.
Yep.
It's Quas. Yeah.
Yeah. But fantastic, you know, and we went in reverse order from Yes Sir Whatever, which is like super polished, you know. Those songs were mastered strictly for that album. And then we went to the more crude Further Adventures of Lord Quas, and then to go to this, it was kind of a weird jump, you know, because when we did it, I listened to the album when I announced this last episode. I went and listened to that exact order, and I was like, there's this weird like dip, you know, because Further Adventures is very crude, but this is very stony and like, you know, we played on the way to the dispensary the other day and then continued to play it when we came home.
Yeah.
Like,
It's good music.
it is, but it's so interesting the way that
Very
it's so
interesting.
experimental.
Yeah,
This one in particular.
Exactly, like Jacob and you were both saying, it's a lot different than his later albums that are more refined and more. It's him playing around with it, with the scratches, with the, like you called it, found sound, with the different sounds that he compiles together. The older Mike, like the talk show host sounds.
Yeah, like in the movie, like the random movie quotes from shit you've never even heard of.
Exactly. Yeah, that's just really cool.
It feels like more hip hop too. I feel like this than the other ones. Like, it's a lot more boom bap beats that he's doing.
Yeah.
The production on it is, you know, it's Madlib, but it's early stages where he's still doing that. This is still before like he did Mad Villainy and everything else too. So
yeah, and exactly, it does have a more. In my opinion, it's the most accessible Quasimoto album.
100%. I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
Right away.
Like, if I were to show someone Quasimoto, I personally love Yes or Whatever, but this one is the most, just, if someone is used to that kind of, as you said, boom bap, it's like, it's very West Coast feel, even though Madlib was living in New York, you know. It does have that very West Coast, and then him talking about the gangsta life and rapping about weed all the time. Like, it's very E40.
It still feels 90s, even though it was made like early on 2000s.
Early, yeah, it was 2000 came
right,
out.
yeah.
It's crazy how ahead of its time it was. This
Yeah.
album was so good. Like, I was gushing over to Dorian early in the week because the first two albums you brought up were great, but this one for me like cemented my love for what Madlib does in the studio, and being able to have that alternate persona and just kill it.
Yeah.
And you know, some of the raps are childish, but they're funny as fuck because the way Quas comes out and says things are just hilarious.
Right.
It was start to finish, like, I don't know, it's just hard to say anything negative about it, man. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
This album is so unique, and I know that a lot of people think he like did a bunch of mushrooms before doing this album. He's always smoking weed, but I think his creative process is so compelling when he's doing it in the studio, and it's
Yeah.
cool to hear it as jazz influences and things I've never heard,
yeah.
like you were saying, like some of the movie quotes and like some of the musicians he talks about I've never heard of, but
Yeah.
like it's fucking, they're there.
Like that, the one track where it's like the skit of him in the jazz, or in the
Do
record
you have
store.
this? Do you have that? I don't know who that is. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. Those aren't marked yet. like,
It's like, you ain't got no reggae? I'm getting out
Yeah.
of here.
Right.
it's so interesting, you know, and then just it ties back to the origins of Quaz,
Yeah.
Yeah,
which
very
is,
much.
you know, he was just fucking around, and to have something like this whole side alias come out of you just fucking around is nuts.
He was like living in the studio or the basement of Peanut Butter Wolf,
Yeah.
like before, during the making of this album, and just like listening to other things and just
Yeah.
surrounding himself with other music, and like that creative process is so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
Damn. I didn't know this was like during that time.
Yeah.
Because that his album too, Peanut Butter Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
He, I think that's one of the first like showings that he had with Quaz under that like name.
Yeah.
But because he did have a lot of like even Stone's Throw and Peanut Butter Wolf, like he had a lot of ties with them. Like they were.
Oh yeah. Well,
especially early
so
on.
that's where Quaz came from. Was Madlib did, you know, some Lucy demos and then threw them on the back of like a B-side of a This Is Stone's Throw Records, just to fuck around. And Peanut Butter Wolf was like, "Yo, what was that?"
Mm-hmm.
And Madlib was like, like my bad, like I was just doing that to fuck around. He's like, "No, I want more of it." And so 3 albums later,
Yeah.
you know, it's one of the best like side ventures we've ever seen.
Bro, good thing he did. Imagine if he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he didn't put it up or he didn't say anything to anyone.
Oh yeah.
Like probably wouldn't have gotten
Falling
these
under
other
the radar.
albums. Yeah, probably
Yeah.
would not have had these other albums that he did.
Oh yeah. Well, and then it just from this, because it came out in 2000, it, you know, spawned. There's inspiration from these Quasimoto projects and everything that Madlib has done afterward.
Definitely.
You can
hear it everywhere.
Like
Yeah.
once he started doing Quaz, if you go and listen to his catalog, he's got this a little bit more, for lack of a better word, it's almost grimy. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's still like the jazzy shit, but it's got that like, okay, you know, like even the Blue Note shit that we covered a while back. But fuck, there's just there's so many tracks on it.
And it,
We
like you
just-
said, it's very West Coast. It gets kind of the throwback with boom music. You know,
Yep.
talking about other, you know, early '90s hip hop, which is cool. You get that like almost that KRS-One comparison, you know, in a sense.
Yeah,
I like that he does. He also has like actual rappers like MED.
yeah,
He always has MED on everything. Some other people on it that featured, but even his rapping, I like his rapping.
yeah.
His rapping's good.
Like even without the Quasimoto filter per se
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what adds to it, like just like that squeakiness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that vocal layering he does and the octave changes are so interesting. It's just really fun to listen to because he'll switch it up at any point, and
Yeah,
yeah,
it's fucking really cool.
It's you never know when it's gonna happen, but when it does, you know, you could like I've listened to this album for years, but every time you listen to any Quasimoto song over and over again, it's like you notice something different.
yeah,
Especially with, like you said, just flipping the vibe on a dime per se with like the low.
yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was still using a lot of, you could tell, like DJ techniques when he was like scratching and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He was really doing that.
Well, like Microphone Mathematics, especially that song, Understand It, Microphone Mathematics,
Yeah.
like that's rare now, especially after this came out. That's rare for Madlib, you know, that true, almost to compare it, DJ Premier
Right.
esque
Most
scratching
Premier
that he
song,
was
yeah.
doing, yeah. But no, and then you get, you know, as you and I had talked the other day, the Found Sound, we were listening to Come On Feet on the way to the dispensary, and just the running little like cartoon, it sounds like Smurf feet, like
Yeah.
Come On Feet, just running, and that it's like kind of this eerie piano track, and then just Quas comes over it so nicely. It's just the most unorthodox beats matched with the most unorthodox like character and persona to be rapping, and it works for some reason.
Yeah.
And I can see why some people would hate it. It's like very niche, but it's so fucking good.
It is.
You could tell in the making it, he was kind of like eyeballing it because there's like 20 tracks or some shit.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not really like it's kind of just like after beats, right? That he didn't use for any project. He was just rap on them, or I think so.
For the Unseen?
Yeah, for this.
Yeah, so the only thing...
Or like side B on something, right?
Yeah, no, this was like the first actual developed project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like the songs on this, some of them are just like just throwaway beats
Lucy's?
that he had.
Yeah. Well, Green Power off of this, there's an alternate version on Yes or Whatever, which is my favorite, is easily in my top 3 Quad songs. I like the version on this, but the one on Yes or Whatever just knocks it out the park. Which brings me to ask you a question. You and I love Yes or Whatever. What did you think of getting to sit down and listen to the Unseen? Like, what did you have any major...
Just like we were saying at the beginning, I think that the comparison between them, where you really hear the scratches and the changing in the beat and the vocal samples, is a lot cleaner and more smooth. Whereas this is a lot more, like you guys were saying, it was a little more experimental with it, where it was really trying to find a sound still. Like Jacob said, the white blob is almost very symbolic to how he felt about his own personal image, I think, and as well as his musical career and his artistic expression and where he wanted to go with it.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
And then you see it kind of in his in the character he chooses. It's a very niche, like
the fucking
yeah.
I'll throw a picture of him in this. Note. Throw a picture of Quas up. Right. But no, like the yellow snuffleupagus looking motherfucker.
Yeah, it's very expressive of who he is as an artist. I feel like it's off kilter from the norm. Whereas it's not super aesthetically pleasing for everybody.
Right.
But however, it's very unique.
Exactly.
Unique, yeah.
And he's riding in the Homer Simpson car.
Yeah.
Yo. He did. I don't know. I never picked up on that.
Because it's pink. It's like...
Yeah, it's the pink with the fins and everything. Oh, my God. Well, fuck, boys. Should we do some top 3s? Honorable mention top 3s?
Let's do it.
Or do we have any further arguments? Matt, anything?
Further
Jacob,
adventures?
anything? Huh?
Further adventures? I don't know.
Further.
This is a great album. It's a great pick. Like I said, for me, it was the most accessible one out of his catalog because I don't know. It's a fun album all the way through.
Yeah,
it's so good.
And it really, if you look at the Wikipedia article for Quasimoto as an artist, it's the main word they use throughout it is satirical. Okay. And so it's like satire on gangster rap because you got this high ass voice, and then at the time 50 Cent and people were like popping off, and he's like, I've been looking up under skirts, just talking about being a scumbag. It's just but it accesses that like it in you, like fucking Gavin and I for the past month and a half have just been walking around speaking the words to Low Class Conspiracy. It's like we're heading to the party to go see what's happening. It's just, man, it's just an earworm of an album. There's so many
one-liners too. Like I found myself throughout the week just saying random things. Like, good morning, sunshine. Or
that was your one text in the group chat today. Is Jacob said what time and where, and then I said 12:30 my place. Matt's only response was, "Good morning, sunshine," which is another, kind of before we get into the top 3s. That's another cool thing is this album being that it's the first. You hear a bunch of those vocal samples. The "Good morning, sunshine," "Come on, feet." Yeah. Like there's some of that's used in Further Adventures and then into Yes or Whatever, and then some of the other projects that Quas features on, from Madlib. So I thought that was really, really cool. You kind of get to see the origin story of the Good Morning Sunshine, because that's all over Further Adventures, especially that one. But yeah, I'll go first for the top threes. This was tougher than hail.
It was tough.
It was tough. Go 2 honorable mentions. Basic Instinct. Really liked how bassy that beat was on Basic Instinct. Second honorable mention was Low Class Conspiracy. Like I just said, we head into the party to go see what's happening. And if you ever get a chance to watch I've mentioned it multiple times, but that Stone's Throw documentary on YouTube, Our Vinyl Weighs a Ton. It's so good. And they have a full thing about Quas, Doom. It's just, I'll fucking watch it again tonight. Fuck y'all.
Yeah, it's worth a watch.
It is so good.
Check it out.
Number 3 for me, Bluffin'. That piano sample on Bluffin' was so nice, paired with Quas, that line, keep it extra clean like a public washing machine. And then number 2, Microphone Mathematics, and then number 1, the re-listen to this album made me fall in love with Come On Feet. So that's my top pick off of it.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next?
I think definitely I'm gonna go honorable mention Return of Loop Digga.
The Loop Digga.
That's the one also where he has like that talk with the merchant, which is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, You Ain't Got No Reggae?
Yeah. And he does like a bunch of beat switches on that song too, which is cool. Top 3, Microphone Mathematics, Bluffin'. Bluffin' is like the primo song.
Yeah.
Like that he's, because he has the piano beat and then he has the scratches. And then I'm gonna go Basic Instinct.
Yeah. As your number 1. Damn.
That one was good. That one, and then also Boom Music, the 1990 Part 1 or 98 Part 1, like the last song on the album.
Yeah.
Also really good.
Yeah, the both disciplines, great. And Matt, what you got, my friend?
For me, honorable mention was Microphone Mathematics. That kind of got me into it, and I was like, all right, I know what's coming next. This is gonna be a great album. And then 3, 2, 1, Jazz Cats Part 1. And
Jazz
then,
Cats was great.
2, Bluffin', we all like that track. And then Boom Music was my favorite song. And that transition from Bluffin' to Boom Music is so good.
Yeah.
Same thing happened for my pick on yours. The transition, like, I don't know what it is, but it's so good. It's like flawless. It's almost like one long track.
Right.
I love when a song doesn't, you can't tell it changed. And for that one, it did that for me.
Yeah.
And that, just to speak on that chunk of the album, you get Real Eyes into Come On Feet, and then Come On Feet into Bluffin', and Real Eyes into Come On Feet has that kind of same thing to where they just smoothly go into each other, but then there's this weird, like, Come On Feet doesn't exactly feed into Bluffin', but then the next one after that.
Yeah, because I thought Boom Music was like a dedication to all these rappers at the end of the song. Or
Yeah.
From Bluff. Yeah. It's like, that's cool. Oh, now it's not.
Yeah, you get that weird chunk in the middle that starts to kind of like Tetris together.
Yep.
But that being said, Gavin, you got any? What are your honorable mentions and top 3s?
I would say my honorable mention would be Bad Character. I think it's a very nice scratch. It's very experimental with like his sound and how he wants. It almost sounds like one of those throwaways that he got given. Just like a half beat that wasn't quite. They didn't go through with it, and so it's got a nice few scratches. It's nice and cool. He put it towards the beginning, and then kind of fed into his more like artistic, longer songs from there. I feel like.
Yeah. It was good to have that at the beginning of the album.
Exactly. And then you have, leading into what would be probably my number 3, that Microphone Mathematics, where you really, like, that's one of his, I feel like, biggest songs off of the album that everybody really gets into from there, is where he starts to delve into it a little bit more. Number 2 was hard, because I kind of knew what my number 1 was going to be. And I really like Bluffin', I would say, same as you guys. That one was really, really good. And I, same as you, listened to it in order first. And like the transition into it from that little stretch that you guys were talking about. And then my number 1 is actually Low Class Conspiracy. That's the song that's the first song that I heard by Quas.
I think same. Yeah, I think probably same. Yeah.
And it was really good. I think it's just still relevant. It's still relevant today. It's a very good song from a very specific point of view, and it's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what I would say. My 3 were.
And it just, I feel like you put that on, if you are in an environment where you know people like hip hop, like rap in any capacity, like Brandon is very much into, you know, like the Suicide Boys and stuff like that. We've played that for him, and he's just over there to that fucking beat.
Oh, yeah.
That beat on the, oh man, just such a fantastic fucking album, and that song in particular, but the whole thing. I don't think there's much more to be said, but that was The Unseen by Quasimoto, released in the year 2000. Thanks for stopping by and talking about it with us.
Thank you guys for having me. Yeah. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
We're not going to tell the viewers why, but you'll be seeing a lot of this guy here in a little bit. Shout out. Any hoodly doodly. We just wrapped up talking about The Unseen by Quasimoto. This is a very producer heavy episove, you know.
Yes.
If we want to be honest.
That's a very good point. I didn't even think about that until just after you said it. You're so smart.
We just covered. I'm not going to say all the producers. You know, we'll wait.
We're not going to ruin.
We'll wait to intro, but we just talked about Quasimoto, which is Madlib, one of the best hip hop producers of all time. One of the favorites of the show, clearly. But let's kind of shift countries, shift genres a little bit. Going into Jake's pick for this week. Stoked as fuck to talk about this one. What you got, man?
Yeah, so also producer, a duo, Daft Punk. It's Discovery. Came out in 2001. It's their second album. Follow-up to Homework, which was like in 98 or something like that. But
yeah, 98.
Homework, it's crazy the difference, the jump they had from this to Homework. Like that difference, because Homework is a lot more techno and like EDM. Like you can hear it, it's a lot more like the club sound. I think they were imitating that like from Europe or whatever, but like when it switched to this, it's like a whole lot more like catchy, like it's catchier songs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a lot of appreciation for it. It's definitely one of my favorite, and Daft Punk, it's like, I mean, they're like in history as like some of the best producers, like especially for duos. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think?
I mean, just to make a point real quick, I mean, I remember growing up like running on my mom's treadmill in the garage to One More Time and Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, like, you know, and then that got sampled by Kanye West on Stronger, which was unreal. Fucking shout out. But, like, unreal. But no, this, and then just for some reason One More Time was just like a song I played the fuck out of for like a solid 2.5 years of my life. And yeah, Daft Punk, you know, as I've mentioned, I'm into the EDM shit and, you know, DJ'd, and I was definitely mixing some Daft Punk way early in the day trying to do something with that. So so glad you brought this up personally.
Yeah, it's cool. I never listened to Daft Punk just because, I don't know, I'm not into techno style music as much as I maybe was when I was younger, but for me it's a great album. You know, like you said, Homework was probably more like techno and house style, and this is more like catchy, and all the tracks on here I've heard throughout, you know, the early 2000s and beyond, and whether it be a commercial or like a video game or a movie, like you're like, oh, that's okay. So for me that was cool. It was accessible, you know. This definitely put them on the map more, like superstardom after this album came out. It's very unique. Some of the transitions, again, like on the Quaz album, on this album, are just as good. Like they just flow so well together, and you're like, wow, is that the same song? Nope, it's a different one.
Yeah.
So for me, it was fun.
Yeah, especially toward the end. You know, toward the end, it starts to really blur together.
Yeah.
Which is pretty pretty cool, especially for an album of this kind of genre, and everything.
It's different song structures too, in a sense. You're like, it doesn't stay. There's no true formula on this album. It's just very different on each track. You're like, okay, they're just playing around with it, which is cool for a band to go out there and just put it out there and explore those different soundscapes in a sense, and make different songs and not sound the same throughout the album.
Absolutely, and like get experimental with them.
Exactly.
Which was what kept me coming back. Even it's hilarious. The last song in the album, Too Long. It's legitimately 10 minutes and 0 seconds long. But goddamn, is that a great song? All 10 minutes of it is fucking fantastic. So it's just, and it does, the production behind it is just so nice, and if you go from this and then you listen to, some of the stuff that we've brought up, Liquid Stranger, Rez, even Mr. Oizo, you can hear Mr. Oizo's influence on Daft Punk, but then you can hear Daft Punk's influence on Liquid Stranger and Rez and everything. Like they were really pioneers for not just techno and house, which was their kind of mainstay, but they influenced people in even heavier genres of EDM and electronic music, which was really fucking cool to see.
Yeah, in like a big way too, because especially with this, it shot them up to like superstardom.
The recording process was like done in their bedroom, right? The first couple albums, I think they didn't really have a studio. It's like that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
because it sounds great. I think the production on this album is amazing, and to do that in your bedroom or wherever at home, in a sense, that's really cool. Yeah, I mean nowadays that's a normal thing, but back in 2001, it's like that's I don't know. It's a little bit more unique, and I don't know. It makes you feel like they put more into that, being at home and just like honing their craft in a sense.
And it's got to be one of those weird things, when you're making songs. I mentioned them already, but like One More Time and Harder Better, making songs like that, and it's something that I like mentioned from time to time with people is like, can you imagine just making this song in the studio, and do you think to yourself, oh, this is going to be a banger, like this is going to change my life?
That's true.
You hear that better, stronger, and is that the moment where you're like, this is the rest of my life has changed? It's just sometimes, and this album is just latent with that, outside of those two songs, like, Something About Us, that song, there's just so many songs on this where I just imagine that in the studio, as you said, like in the studio, that moment they were like, yeah, no, this is the one. Like any of them could have been the one that's like, yeah, this is the one that changes our lives. Even fucking Night Vision, which is super calm and mellow. It's like they were probably just this was probably just such a huge confidence build for these guys, because it is that good. You said it about The Unseen. You texted yesterday. You're like, The Unseen top 3 might look more like a top 24.
Yeah.
And I was like, same, because it's the album I'm bringing up. But also, Daft Punk. I was like, dude, they just have this like big dick swagger kind of to them, in this album, because it's just like the album layout. It flows together in some aspects, but it's very experimental with like the track to track,
Oh, it is, yeah.
But it works by the end of it. You're like, oh, I see why this wasn't fluid. It makes you. This album just makes you think in like a weird. You know what I mean?
It does.
Like it kind of just makes you deep dive and be like, why the fuck? It makes, like I said, it makes you analyze the track layout. Like. Should I rearrange this? It's like the dipshit Tool theories. You remember the ladder, for Ladder House? Yeah, it makes me want to go like a Reddit theory. Discovery shouldn't be laid out like this.
Start ranting about it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think definitely it was massive for them and for the genre, for techno and house, because it really changed the game on that side. And even their stuff afterwards that came out from this, because this spawned like all their other work, and like they did the Tron soundtrack,
which is so good.
Which is amazing, yeah. Also, like, Random Access Memories.
Which blew up.
Yeah, it got like 6 Grammys or something.
Yeah.
Like that, like ridiculous. It's really good also. But yeah, this older stuff, it's very much still feels so new for like the age when they made it.
Mm-hmm.
Which really speaks to something, you know, that really says something.
Yeah.
You know, listening to this,
Yeah,
it's
20
like,
years later, it still hits.
I'm like, this is actually fucking fantastic still.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
And you would hear it everywhere, like it was everywhere all the time. I was telling Matt, you've probably heard of it, Dorian, but they have a album that's called Alive 2007, and it's just the album where they mix all of their songs together. And it's pretty badass. Like they'll do One More Time with Aerodynamic.
Oh damn!
They mix Too Long with Steam Machine and like Robot Rock, like all their like bigger songs. They just mix all of them.
Oh,
that sounds epic.
It's bad. And
what's
like,
it called? Alive 2007.
Yeah, Alive. They have one. They have.
Is that the one that you have on vinyl?
Yeah, I have that one too. I want to bring. If we end up bringing up like live albums, I'll definitely bring it up.
Oh, cool.
I think we should.
Really good.
Yeah, we do need to do.
We should just do a live album episode, honestly.
But that one's really cool, and I've been on a bender like this whole week of just listening to their old stuff.
Oh hell yeah!
And like I like all their stuff really, but Alive 2007, man, it's fucking, it's really good. It's really good.
Damn. Fuck yeah.
But, well. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you guys liked it for sure.
Oh yeah, no. When you brought it up, I was like,
I'm like, yeah, these guys know who Daft Punk is and everything.
No, when you brought it up, I was hyped. I was like, dude, I used to run to that album. I was like, because I would do that between like basketball and track season. I would just run on the treadmill to fucking Daft Punk and Mr. Oizo, and it was basically this whole album. But yeah, fucking fantastic pick. You want to start us off with some honorable mention top threes?
So honorable mention, we're gonna go Voyager.
Yep.
I like that it's kind of like soothing in a way. The beat on it, it's really cool. I forgot to bring this up, but they made a movie, like an animated anime.
That's right. Yeah, we were talking about that.
It's really cool. Like it's like kind of Interstellar 555. Yeah, it's like intergalactic like shit going on. So they have like there's a dude with like a guitar as his ship. Like that's his ship. It's a fucking guitar.
That sounds cool.
It's badass. Yeah. It's really cool. I'd recommend it. But yeah, they like it's based. I mean, it's with this soundtrack. So that's pretty much the movie. It has like no dialogue. Just like it's just the songs.
Just like The Wall.
Yeah, pretty much cool. The Wall. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But definitely Voyager, because there's a scene on it with that song that it goes really well. Top 3, Short Circuit, bro.
Dude.
The funk on that.
Yes.
All right, that's good.
It was so so funky. I like when I listened to it again, I had stank face, and I'm like, what? It's that good. It's so good. And Digital Love, and then Something About Us.
Yeah. You want to go? Go ahead.
I'll go.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Go ahead.
Honorable mention for me too, just like Jake, Voyager. It's an epic song. Digital Love number 3. And then again with the transition, just like on the Quas album, the Short Circuit to Face to Face. Like, I don't know, that's so good. So my top 2 and 1 was Face to Face and Short Circuit. So good.
Hell yeah. Honorable mentions for me, Veritas Quo and Too Long. Kind of mentioned that one. Too Long, it was just ironic, the song title, but I was like, no, it's not Too Long. This is a smack. Number 3, had to do One More Time. We gonna celebrate. Number 2, Face to Face. Number 1, Something About Us for me. After listening to it again in full, I was like, for multiple times, that was my solidified. Something About Us just really, I like that one.
They're good musicians too. Like,
oh yeah.
So
yeah. Well, we just talked about another great duo of producers. That was Discovery by Daft Punk, released in 2001. We'll be right back to wrap it up and talk about Matt's pick for this week. It's Whatchu Spinnin, episode 56. Well, let's get into it.
Round it out.
Yeah. We're going to go up and down and around like a carousel.
Round it out.
And wrap it up with Matt's pick for this week. One, I'm actually, I don't know about you, I'm pretty stoked to talk about this one. Dude. Because we've talked about one aspect of it, and then we've talked about another aspect of it, and now we get to see kind of two albums we've talked about kind of collide. And I'm stoked as fuck to kind of go over that. So, Matt, what the hell did you bring up?
What the hell did I bring up?
Yeah.
Went with Saul Williams, The Inevitable Rise and Fall of Niggy Tardust. From 2008, produced by Trent Reznor, which is kind of overshadowed a lot for this album. A lot of people just know that about the album.
Yeah.
Rather than a lot of the other cool things, which is the lyrical content and just the overall expressiveness of what Saul Williams does with his poetry when he puts it on pen and paper and puts it into a studio. It's pretty unique. And to have Trent behind him is really awesome as well. They met early on in Saul's career, and he actually toured with them a few times before this album. The album was written on a tour bus in between tours for both of them, I believe, and you can definitely hear the influence of Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails. Atticus Ross also does some programming and production on this too, which is, kind of early on them doing their thing because they're both amazing now.
Yeah.
Alan Moulder mixed this album, and he's done all the albums.
Unfucking real.
So
Alan Moulder,
right? He's on everything we've talked about for the most part.
Yeah.
When it comes to rock and some hip hop. So
yeah.
For me, it's one of my favorite albums by Saul Williams because it's very accessible. Because anybody that likes Nine Inch Nails can just pick this up and be like, all right,
yeah,
it's got that feel to it. This is a third album, and I think it's a good transition from his first album, that was produced by Rick Rubin. Kind of takes full circle to Trent Reznor, and it's just such a...
Who has been produced by Rick Rubin, right? Rick Rubin?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think who did the Downward Spiral. It might have been Rick Rubin, but I don't know.
No, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Maybe not.
Yeah. Don't quote us anything. Sorry, Trent. Yeah, sorry.
Don't quote me on that. But I felt like they have some connection with Trent and Rick, probably.
Somewhere
as collaborators.
But I like that you could see that difference too. It's like what Rick Rubin did to what Trent did on this one with Saul. And like Saul, he is, especially with his poetry on this, you could tell. And I was kind of missing it. I was like, where's that poetry? I was like, on his first one. But even still on this one, he adds that into it, and still super powerful, dude. What he's saying, like, it's crazy. I have lyrics for one of them that I'll bring up, but yeah, all of his stuff on this, you could tell it's also still like experimental. I think that's like Trent with his production that he was doing on some songs. He was trying to it seemed like he was kind of challenging him to go out of his way, especially for poetry, because that's kind of hard to do on stuff
especially
like
when it comes to hip hop, having like that, whether it's a street credit or like having that hardcore mentality. But I think Saul's able to do it in his own way. And whether that's talking about modern things that are happening now rather than like money and women and things like that, he puts a relative spin on it that's unique in so many ways, kind of like Common does. I feel like they're very similar in how they approach music and do things. I don't know, I love Saul Williams.
No, I do too. He does, it makes you think. Like, his music makes you think no matter what. Like, Amethyst Rockstar made me, I was just dissecting his lyrics in my head. And then this one, I was doing that, but also was just captivated by the fact that damn near every song, I filled up a whole section, and I didn't need to, because I was just like, obviously Trent Reznor influence,
right?
Blah, blah, blah. Because it's even because he does feature on a couple of songs, but there's certain parts on this album where Saul Williams is singing and sounding like Trent Reznor.
That's true.
It's
like, what? Yeah.
It's like, wait, what? And so I had to look it up and be like, what songs is Trent Reznor actually singing on? And I was like, oh, only two? All right, doesn't help my case at
No.
all.
It still sounds like a few more. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
and but yeah, this one, just his, as you had mentioned, his poetry and everything delivered over top of these very instrumental or industrial like rock kind of instrumentation is fucking phenomenal. Like I said to you the other day, I was like, I listened to your album and like within the first 5 seconds of listening to it, I was like, yeah, this is a Trent album.
You can
Like,
hear
yep.
it, this away.
Yeah, this is the downward spiral redux.
Yeah.
I was like, no, this is, but they go so well together that it almost, when you look at it from a very broad lens, you're like, this doesn't make sense. But then when you listen to it, you're like, oh yeah, nothing but this makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like Mad Lib and, to tie it back to what we just talked about, it's like Mad Lib and MF Doom.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, nothing else makes sense. Like, this is it.
And Year Zero by Nine Inch Nails came out in 2007, and so this album came out in 2008. And I think there's a lot of production or things that maybe were used on that album that Trent brought into this album.
Oh,
just
shit.
different sounds. That's a different album too for Nine Inch Nails. It's very like instrument heavy, but like in a sample way. It's very not accessible for a lot of Nine Inch Nails fans for whatever reason. As odd as that sounds, because that's a lot of what they do in their music. But a lot of people were turned off by that one. I remember when that album came out, on the back of it had like this album is considered subversive by the FBI and blah, blah, blah. I had one of those ratings on it before that was even a thing. I thought that was so funny.
Fuck.
I'm like, it wasn't that bad. Like,
Damn.
relax. We're not going to take over the world after playing this album. It's okay. Yeah.
Year Zero by Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah.
Fuck, I'm going to have to listen to that, dude.
It's
God
different.
damn.
It's a different spin. But going back to Saul in this album, he stretches himself a little bit more and I think has a little bit more of a hard element to it where he's a little bit more like, I don't know, just thunderous in his expression about different topics and things like that, and not as playful, which is great because I think the music builds upon that because it's a little darker, but whether it's a piano riff or a bass line, that you have that Trent feel to it. When you mix it with his lyrics, with Saul's poetry, it's like the perfect combination. You know, it's hard to dismiss any of these tracks as being not good tracks, because they are.
They're all great.
They're all good, you know. They're all
and it's an album that you don't realize until you've listened to it a couple of times that it's kind of got two sections to it.
Yeah.
Like the front of it is very, the front part, the front half is very, I don't know how to say it.
It's like hits you in the face real fast.
Yeah. But it's not, like Saul Williams, like he's a rapper, right? That's what his music is he's a rapper, quote unquote, massive air quotes. But you don't really hear that until the second half of the album. So he's just chilling with Trent Reznor, making some crazy industrial, like starting off with Black History Month and then the cover of Sunday Bloody Sunday by U2. Woo-wee!
Which is very simple, and just him doing his acapella behind some bass lines.
Yeah, but that cover, the cover of that song is fucking incredible. And then after that, you know, you get into like Scared Money, which is a very, it reminds me, it's like current Run the Jewels type.
Yeah, it's like a hip hop.
Like through and through. And so that's what kind of threw me, or it didn't throw me off per se, but I thought it was funny, you know, going through it and being like, oh, this is very poetic for the first part. You know, he's like really, I'm like really listening to the lyrics, and then after that, it's like, oh, Trent Reznor's making like some actual hip hop beats right now. Let me.
He's going off.
Yeah, like yo. So that was.
No, his beats are good, dude.
It was actually kind of cool to see that, you know.
And some of the sampling that Trent brought, I don't know if it was Trent or Saul that, you know, brought it up or had him use, but like the Public Enemy sample on Trigger, and then some Nina Simone, I forgot what song it is, but they have a Nina Simone sample too in there, which is kind of cool.
Oh yeah.
So, not sure who pulled that off, but either way, it's fun. Fun album. I think some of the poetry too comes towards the end of the album. Like No One Ever Does and songs like that, where it's a little slower.
What's that?
And this album has, I think, the one on Spotify has the bonus 5 tracks on it. So some of those songs are on. One of those songs is on the second album. So
yeah, like Can't Hide Love,
List of Demands. That's on his second album.
Yeah. List of Demands is a
That's
great
a pop. That was what. Yeah, that's one of his more popular songs that people know. Was on a Nike commercial back in the
Yeah.
early 2000s.
nice.
List of Demands. That song goes hard, dude.
I want my money back.
I want my money back. Well, shit.
Yeah.
The Pedagogue.
Pedagogue of Young Gods.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Dude.
For
For
Young
Gunshots by Computer, that's heavy too. That's another
Yeah.
Nine
Yeah.
Inch Nails influence track right there.
Yeah.
Very chunky and clunky.
Which is why I thought it was funny, or not funny. I thought it was interesting that it was getting into more like actual hip hop beats, and then that's when his his lyrics really took the next leap.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, I'm actually on a hip hop beat. Let me
Yeah.
spit some of this actual real shit, and it's like, damn, dude.
Because I think Gunshots on Computer is on either the Year Zero original album or the remix, because they did a remix too of that album. So
Oh,
it's,
damn.
it's on one of those. So, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Fuck.
Well,
But I like
shall
the
we?
album cover too. One more shout out with the kitty.
One more
Get
shout
him
out.
out! Get him out!
I'll plug it. I'll plug that right there.
Yeah, let's top three it up.
Yeah. Start us off, baby boy.
Kind of went back and forth most of the week because I've been listening to this album since it came out. And when it came out, another thing to throw back at, can we backtrack a little bit?
Yeah, let's
when
back.
So when this album came out, it came out in November, and I think In Rainbows by Radiohead came out in October. And both were given away online, like a pay-your-own
This was
price.
November?
Radiohead was first in October, and this came out in November. And
Okay.
there was a big campaign for both albums. Online, you just pay your own price or get it for free. And I remember going online and buying it and stuff like that. And Trent being on there like, hey, support local artists and, like, you know, support Saul. You know, he's not as big as Radiohead. So to have Trent Reznor supporting like that, pretty cool.
He's not as big as Radiohead.
Yeah.
That's fucking
Yeah,
awesome.
That was pretty cool. Anyways, top three.
The top three.
Top three. For me, honorable mentions were Niggy Tardust and Raised to Be Lowered. Both great tracks. Number 3, Break, because that's, I think, right away where I had that Trent influence from the starting of the track. And number 2, for me, Banged and Blown Through. And then my favorite track was Skin of a Drum.
Hell yeah. Jake, you want me to go?
I'll go.
I'll go.
You want to go?
You're over there scrolling on your phone. I'm thinking that you can't
I'm
go
pulling
right
up
now.
the list because I can't read my spelling again.
All right.
But no, if I'm going honorable mention, I'm gonna go.
Don't kill this guy. Hey, for the viewer at home, I want to kill both of these guys. But I love them both. But
Yes.
if they die, I did it.
If I end up in a ditch somewhere,
Wasn't me.
you know why. You know who did
It's
it.
because they give me shit. Anyway.
I'm going Pedagogue. That's my honorable mention because I love that he's still like very deep in the poetry at this point. And it's just his lyrics that he's doing is like they have weight to him. I'm doing Gunshots by Computer. That's third. Skin of a Drum, and then Scared Money. That was my favorite track. I think just because it sounded the most hip hop to me, like him on a hip hop track, which he doesn't really do that much. So that's what's cool. Or if he is, he's like on a slower hip hop track. Like I think last year, Denzel Curry's album. He has Saul Williams on it.
Oh, cool.
And he does like a piece at the end, like a poetry. But yeah, that one he was like kind of doing more hip hop, so that's why I liked it a lot more.
Hell yeah. Love it, love it. Honorable mentions for me. First honorable mention, Niggy Tardust. When I say Niggy, you say nothing. Just
Shut up.
Shut up. Yeah.
Shut up. Second honorable mention for me was Raw. I loved the first line, "What's a song if you can't fuck to it?"
Right?
I thought that
Saul
was
doing his
fantastic.
thing.
I was like, shout out Saul. Great. I was like, I like the fuck out of that. Number 3 was WTF. It was Saul and Trent Reznor on it. You decide who was doing what because they sound very similar on that track.
They do.
But actually being able to, be like, oh yeah, Trent was on that. Love that one. Scared Money was number 2. I loved that it just went back to that main, like that coda riff so many times. That doom doom, and Saul was just spitting. And the number 1 was Break.
Good song.
Love that one. Those
Whenever
were
my
top.
fears arise, I blow them out.
Yep.
It's a great It's a great line. I use that all the time in life.
Yep.
You have to.
Gotta. Well, that was the... You want to go
The
ahead?
Inevitable Rise and Fall of Niggy Tardust?
By Saul Williams.
Yes.
I didn't want to fuck it up.
Yeah.
Which was Matt's pick for this week. We'll be right back to go ahead and show y'all what's coming for the next edition of Whatchu Spinnin'. It's Whatchu Spinnin', episode 56. Okay, it's about that time to go ahead and show y'all what's coming for the next episode of Whatchu Spinnin', which will be episode 57. But in order to wrap up episode 56, we got to show y'all what's coming. And to kick that off, it'll be me, because we go in the order that we talked. And Matt, I'm sorry, you can go ahead and try to put me in an Indian leg lock.
I knew it.
But I'm bringing up Take Me Back to Eden by Sleep Token, released about 3 months ago, right around when he's gonna stab me with his pen. Released right around like a week within Billy Wood's Maps.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Right around that time frame back in May. Fantastic album, all over the place as far as genre goes. I'm stoked to bring it up. Matt, I'm sorry.
No, I'm glad you did. I'm excited. Oh, yeah.
Me too. But what you got, Jake?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go hip hop this week. So 2020 came out in 2020. Quelly Chris and Chris Keys, Innocent Country Season 2.
Quelly Chris?
Quelly Chris.
Damn.
No.
All right. Innocent Country.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot more like Lucid, Billy Woods, stuff like that. So
Okay.
I think you guys will like it.
And it's Innocent Country Season 2?
Innocent Country 2.
Innocent.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Matt, what you got?
I'm going to throw a weird monkey wrench in everything.
Hell yeah.
1984, a band from Germany called the Cactus Twins. Kind of like early shoegaze, like before Ride. Some English, some German, but I think you guys will dig it based on some of my picks in the past. So
Hell.
Cactus Twins,
yeah.
yeah.
Cactus Twins.
Treasure is the album.
Treasure.
Treasure.
Fuck yeah. All right.
I have never seen that or heard of it, so I'm excited.
Cool.
Hell yeah. That's
what I do.
That's awesome. Cactus Twins. Let's fucking get it, dude. Anyways, this has been episode 56 of Whatchu Spinnin'. As per usual, I'm your host, Dorian, joined as always by Jake. Send him off. Peace out. Matt, go ahead and send him off. See ya. We'll go ahead and see you later. Peace.